technical tonight.
So tonight is a homemade home session.
Yeah, and we don't want any ageist comments about
none of that,
old people can't do technology.
Because we're capable of all of it,
yeah.
even if it goes slightly pear-shaped.
We can do this.
Yeah,
we can.
So
okay, so
we're talking. Yes, for the first time this time without an NHS clap in the street previously. So I don't know what's happening in your area, but we're doing it differently in our street this week for the first time in 10 weeks.
Yes, I don't know, maybe some people have been out, because someone said actually it's still worth clapping because of all the other support services that have kept the whole country somehow going. So delivery drivers, people going out and doing cleaning jobs, all sorts. So our decision was to say 10 weeks of clapping was where we would stay, pause, but maybe you've been out tonight anyway. And
we've been getting some wonderful emails from people over the last few weeks. Wonderful response to Tricia Cusden's appearance last week as our guest. We talked about work and she was just amazing. Lots and lots of positive comments about that, and people wanting to get in touch after that and buy the book, which is also very good.
Now, we know she had a makeup business, but somebody sent me a note and said that they decided to wear lipstick every day this week. We'd love to know what else you've been getting up to. And I think we put something, didn't we, Adrian, on the send out email that Thomas, who moved from not far from here, actually, over to West Wales, as a big Act 3 jump, and it's relative to tonight.
Well, just going back a moment to what we were doing last week and the previous weeks, we, being a bit slow in the technical department, have now uploaded all the sessions we've done over the last few weeks, and today is week 8, I think, of our sessions.
Yeah.
Or is it
9? 10, 25,
whatever,
something like that.
And anyway, we bunged them up on YouTube, and if you want to have a look at them, you're welcome to look at them from our website, which is called act3life.com. act3life.com. We'll give you a little reminder again at the end. So that's, those are unvarnished Zoom recordings of what has happened over the weeks, and so thank you for being part. And if you haven't been part of them before, and this is your first time, we're very delighted to have you along with us, and welcome. So we've had lots of new people signing up, and that's really, really very exciting. So thank you. And it is really all based around the themes that we raise in the book that we wrote together as a married couple. Here it is, Act 3, The Art of Growing Older. And we've just felt people were happy to and interested to have a kind of discussion about the things that the book raises, the issues. And so that's what we're going to be doing tonight. That's what we've been doing all these weeks. So
okay, so we're going to do a bit of housekeeping first of all. Please check that you're muted, and you can put us on speaker view if you want to, which means go to the top right of your screen and you can select speaker view there. You can use the chat button as well, all the way through. We really like hearing from you. And Adrian will just try it out. So we'll just say hello on the chat. There we go. This is coming from us. Oh, there's still people joining the call to admit as well. And then you can raise your virtual hand in the Q&A at the end. And if you're happy, we might have time to unmute you as well to bring you live into the session. And you do that by going to the participants at the bottom of your screen, the section there. You should be able to see a blue hand there to ask a question. And just lastly, very importantly, this is being recorded. It will go up on YouTube. So for you, if you don't want yourself to be part of it, then obviously
you can turn your camera off.
You can turn your camera off. You can turn your, obviously we need you muted anyway. Otherwise we get all sorts of funny clicks and whirs and background noises. So I think I've done the housekeeping.
I think that's about right.
Okay.
Thank you. And so what are we're talking about tonight, Judy?
Well, just a very quick catch up, as we always do as well. Our model in the book is about a tree. We've got a slide of the tree just to take you very quickly through that. This was something that we came up with, it must be 4 years ago now, while we were working on the the structure of the book. So this is how we see our Act 3 life, and the most important thing is the roots at the bottom that hold the whole thing up.
With the book, we wanted people to have a visual that would sum up the entire book so that it's easy to remember.
So over the last 8 weeks, we've been covering the aspects of the tree, and the roots are, as I said, most important, the attitude that you carry through as you grow older, as positive and as optimistic as you can. Your purpose, what you're really here for, what's your legacy to the world, to yourself, to your family. And your values are how you go about that. So perhaps justice is a big thing. There's been a lot of that going on this week. And then your key relationships will make a massive difference to all of the exterior things in the tree there.
So what we think in the book is that if a storm happens and it batters the tree, i.e. your life, our life, then if you've got those 4 roots in a fairly good shape, then you're going to do much better than if you spend all your time, for example, worrying about work or money or something else that's up in the branches. So that's our kind of approach, and we explain it week by week and chapter by chapter. But today we're not talking about those things. We're talking about
home. We're going home. We did
Yeah.
work last week, as many of you know, and tonight is all about home. So Thomas wrote to us in the week, and we put it on the email that we sent out to you, and perhaps you haven't had time. We try and put a little something to give you a flavour of what we're going to cover. It was a much longer piece, but Adrian's just going to read out a little bit of it now because it's beautifully expressed, and Thomas is on the call. So hi, Thomas.
Yeah, he's read the chapter and he was responding in his email, and he said, "Home is where our heart is. The old saying goes, where our loved ones are. It's also where in my gut I feel at home, at peace, where I know deep down that things are okay. Home is a soul thing, less a geographical piece of the planet where I happen to be living at any given moment, more a piece of the soul, P-A-C-E, of the soul, accessible at any time, anywhere. It's a sense I've experienced in most of the different countries I've lived in, and now I'm experiencing that love and that serenity here in our new home. Life is good." He and Barbara have just moved 250 miles away from where they were in the last year or so. So this is a big thing for them. So it's great to hear from him. So thank you, Thomas.
So what can we do tonight? Well, we're going to focus on home and what it means to us in Act 3. And just for the purposes of that definition, when we say Act 3, what we really mean is the years of about 50 to 80. It's a whole new chunk of life that previous generations haven't had the opportunities that this generation does have. I will be 60 this year. Adrian is 65. So we're very much in Act 3 ourselves, and we've done some big things in the home territory in Act 3, and we'll tell you a little bit about that later. But we're welcoming later on tonight our special guests who dialed in from New Zealand. They are very adventurous as a couple, and their story is also in the book, but we've got them to agree to get up really early and to be on this call.
It's not even 7:30 in the morning where they are, so thank you.
And we're very aware that home is a very personal thing. People are living in all kinds of different situations, and there will be time tonight to be put into smaller groups to discuss what home means to you as we get older, and you don't have to say anything you don't want to say at all. You'll find yourself put in with a few other people, but it's entirely up to you if you want to contribute into that group, and it'll only be for a few minutes, and then you'll be back on the main group itself. So we every week, if you've been joining us, you'll know we light a candle every week, and it's something we do in our home every day, pretty much, and we have done for years and years and years. We've lit a candle. It's a sort of prayer or sort of remembering of people who aren't with us, people we love, people we are caring for, thinking of, people we've lost, people who've just somewhere else. So what we're going to do is light a candle, but particularly this week, we've been very, very, well, both Judy and I were in tears watching a little video about Black Lives Matter, I Can't Breathe stuff this week. And today we both watched a little piece, which we won't share with you, but it's just amazing. So all our friends who are going through particular suffering, we're going to light a candle for them. And for you and your situation.
Yeah.
All of us know somebody out there who has perhaps found this whole COVID-19 time particularly difficult.
And people, not everybody's home situation is good, and
No,
you know,
not at all.
we are very aware of that. We both work with people professionally who have stuff they're struggling with, so that's also for them.
So we want to just ask you to look after yourselves tonight, particularly if home is a tricky situation, or you've got some big decisions to make and it's not easy to do that. And as always, we would ask you to take out of tonight what you find helpful, what energizes you, what makes you sit up and think, oh, that was interesting, rather than what makes you feel down or perhaps in any way resentful. Oh, it's all right for them or her or him. So, you know, just focus on what really feels like, gosh, that's speaking to me, because that's going to be meaningful and useful to you.
I'm trying to multitask as we're doing this.
Yeah, still letting people in.
Letting people in who are joining. We're now, participants are increasing moment by moment, so that's great. Yeah, we've got a little slide here, which we were, if I can just go to the screen sharing. This was Maya Angelou. Oh, I think I made a mistake there.
Hey ho, beginners yeah, screens.
Oh, well. We'll go to a slide of something that Maya Angelou said, which was this. Here we are. The ache for home lives in all of us, the safe place where we can go as we are and not be questioned, which kind of echoes what Thomas was saying earlier. And our own story of home, we could go on for a long, long time talking about, but we won't, because that's for another day. But we amazingly got the chance to build our own home a number of years ago. We're sitting in it now. And we just knew that we wanted our lives to be different as we were, I suppose I was about 51 or 2 at the time. So it was about 12 years ago, I suppose we started thinking, talking seriously about it. And it took nearly 9 years for us to get everything together. And we wanted to basically have a house that was cheaper, more eco, smaller, more suited to this Act 3 part of our lives. And this is even before we started writing the book and working on Act 3 stuff. We both work as coaches normally. So that's kind of a very, very short summary of our own home experience.
Well, I think it was really prompted by around that time, 3 out of our 4 parents died within a year, and the remaining one, my mum, got Alzheimer's, and we could tell that life was going to speed up quickly, and our eldest had gone off to university, and we could see she would not really be coming back. She was going to take a job in London. And very quickly, our old big Victorian house was becoming a big money pit, as well, as I'm sure many of you who are fortunate to own your own home realise that every now and again something big needs to be fixed, like a roof or the boiler or something like that. So, and Adrian didn't want to carry on in his working life in the same way. So we had all these things like a matrix coming together, and it got us, we're both planning types, it got us thinking, what are we going to do? How do we live differently? How on earth could we move when we were very wedded to the community around here, to the facilities within our local area as well? So we wrote everything down that we liked and didn't like in all of the houses and places we'd stayed and lived in. And so we made great big long lists.
It was a huge list. Yeah,
absolutely. And things that we'd always been fed up with, small pokey hallways when you greet people and you want to give them a hug and they've got coats and suitcases and all kinds of things.
It's a very English thing.
We're in our hallway here, which is huge, because we wanted that that sense of welcome and also that sense of farewell. You know, we right now, goodness, don't we miss hugging people? And then when lots of people come all at once, you want to do all that.
So it's a hugging place, isn't it?
It's the hugging hallway, yes. And then we've always had our laundry area upstairs. That was another one. So we had this long list of what we really wanted. And when we went to meet the house builder, what did he say?
Well, the house builder, when we, at an important point of the process, our house was built in Germany, made in a factory there. And Thomas Thomas sat us down and started the conversation at the beginning of the week when we were doing important work on the house. He said, "What is your home for?" And how long were we there for answering that question?
All morning.
All morning.
Yeah, hours.
It was just a wonderful philosophical question from a beautiful builder about, based around, we want to build the house, the home that is actually, that fits you. That's right. It causes us to think even more deeply, and we'd already been thinking quite deeply about what is home for us and how to make it. It was just a beautiful, beautiful question. So we loved him for that. So what are the essentials for
There's a few other salient points that were in the chapter in the book, and we'll just sort of give them to you now. So we're very aware that people live in so many different combinations at every stage in life, but in Act 3, it does become even more underlined. So perhaps people are on this call, people you know are on their own. Perhaps they're living with what they would say is family. Perhaps they're in a granny building or a grandpa building, like an annex or part of the house their children have. Perhaps they're renting as well or owning their own home. I heard of a really fantastic thing called Silver Sharers this week, which is an organisation recognising that people in their 50s and 60s and 70s, many can find themselves needing to rent somewhere to live. Perhaps they've lost their job, or perhaps their relationship has ended.
Or they just want to downsize.
Or they want to downsize.
Or they want company.
Yeah, but they don't want to live with 20-year-olds. So she set up this agency called Silver Sharers for people who either want to offer a shared space in their home or are looking. And then, of course, co-housing, which is
There's a fantastic
booming.
new co-housing development here in Cambridge, which is called Marmalade Lane. I haven't visited yet, but that's a beautiful new development. Yeah.
And then also we've also worked with people, know people where the relationship has come to an end, but there isn't an option to sell up or to move out of the house, and how they then try and divide the house into two separate living spaces. And of course, those with children, many children adult children are back living in the home, not just because of COVID, but because there is issues over, again, jobs and relationships, which make it very difficult for them to get out and find their first home.
And part of thinking about this, I think it's important to sort of remind yourself, what was the model that you were given for home? The model by meaning where did you grow up? What your parents like in the home, or your parent or whoever looked after you.
Well, in Act 3,
and so as a child, that you kind of, we often as coaches ask people what the model where we're given was, because it's sometimes difficult to break out in your head of those ways of thinking and think new thoughts. So that's something we would encourage you to do. And you know, our parents were very different. My parents were planners. They had everything organized and their funerals paid for, you know, years in advance. And your parents, what were they like?
Total opposite, completely and utterly shambolic. They had, well, to be honest, there was mental health issues as they were going in their Act 3 years. And so the idea of doing anything sensible or organized, like decluttering or trying to move where they could make a joint decision, just didn't happen. And it wasn't till after my dad had died that my sisters and I managed to get mum out of the really full up family house that was just, every room pretty much was full.
So we would say, try not to leave it too late and get the conversations going early. And we'll come on to that in more detail, I think, particularly with regard to end of life stuff on another session in the future.
But planning is everything.
Well, it is really, and some people are planners and other people are not. So
we know people in Act 3 who don't want to do any planning at all. They just want to live for the day and hope they wake up and tomorrow's still okay. But all we can say is we want to share our knowledge, our experience, that in this territory of home, planning is so important. And even if you have a kind of what if scenarios kind of conversation with yourself, with your partner.
You could make it into a game almost, that you could have have a couple of drinks maybe, and then have a what if conversation. What if this, what if that, what if the other? Our friend Vera down the road mentioned that the other day with regard to play. You know, what if I was a cleaner? What if I was doing this job? What if I was doing that? And it's a great playful way to explore new ideas. What if my house was different, in a different place?
But I think, as you would expect us to say, in those what ifs, always come back to those 4 roots of what does our attitude need to be? What is our purpose? And that's linked to the builder's question. What's your home for? And then what are your values around how you make those decisions and conversations?
And who are your stakeholders in this whole thing? Because it's not just necessarily going to be you and your partner, if you've got one. There's likely to be other people, obviously, who have a stake in this.
And maybe your adult children will be very, very opinionated about where you live, how you live, whether you're near them or not near them, or whether you're near one of them and not the other one.
And it's obvious that you're going to need to think about money, budgets, and getting advice on that, space needs inside and out. These are not necessarily easy questions to get your head around in the abstract. Access to shops and amenities, that kind of thing. It's, there's a kind of, the idyll of retirement and roses round the door in a cottage is not necessarily something that's going to work for everybody, is it?
No, not at all. No.
I mean, I know some people who are thinking, I want to move into the middle of London and get a flat, get rid of the house, get in there.
Yeah. And I think the value of community, it takes years and years and years, mainly, to build connections where you live, whether that's neighbours, whether that's shops and services and things that you need, and what can you do off the doorstep without having to get into a car. Is it going to really work for you to be somewhere where it's all going to be about using a car? What happens when the day comes where you can't drive, for example? Now there's so much more detail in the home chapter of our book,
which we won't go into now.
We won't go into now because we need to bring Phil and Steph in a minute, but it will help you plan and to have those quite potent conversations with your husbands, wives, partners, children, whoever are the other stakeholders and have a view on where you live. Okay, so who are Phil and Steph? Well, they are now well into their Act 3. They live in Auckland in New Zealand in a 2-bedroom apartment. They lived actually for many years in London, which is where we met them decades ago now, when we all had more hair and better working memories. Phil has spent most of his career working in corporate PR, and Steph has been in the business world in various ways and also worked as a very talented artist. In Auckland, you might spot them whizzing around downtown on their scooter before heading home for a glass of wine on the balcony. They have a great Act 3 story to tell us of how they radically changed their working and their living lives and their home with not foolproof guarantees at all that it would all work out. So let's welcome
Hi, Phil
them
and
in.
Steph, can you hear us? Come on in, New Zealand.
Yeah.
There they are.
There they are, welcome. Sitting in front of a lovely painting of a New Zealand coastline.
And it's now, what, 20 to 8 in the morning?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's light out now. We started in the darkness, but we're here.
Have you had your coffee?
Sure have.
Two
So-
coffees. Excellent. So tell us what you did in your mid-50s with your home, and how did that come about?
Yeah, well, I guess to put in context, our model was always a detached house with a garden, and for me it was sea and hills because we lived in Wellington. Then we came to the UK, and so we kind of had a practice run in our 30s of adapting to different things. Being in a flat was quite different for us, and I think it was reasonably easy until children came along, and then that was a different context.
Yeah.
But as far as the 50s, we shifted back from the UK and we rebelled from living in half a maisonette to living on 5.5 acres in the country, and the kids going to school with Calf Club. Then we shifted into the city to simplify, which is kind of going against the grain a bit. And some friends thought we were mad going into the city, but it actually simplified our life. So the house we had in the city, you actually came and saw us the week after we shifted in, which was fun. We sold it in our 50s after, we'd been there about 10 years. The kids had done school, the main school there. The eldest had left and done uni and was in London working, and the youngest was on a gap year. And it had been great spot, very central. We were very happy, close to school and friends. and then...
Yeah, so I'd thought for a number of years about what it would be like to have a sabbatical gap year, just to step off a pretty happy treadmill, but just have some time to think about the next 15 years or so. So that came about as an opportunity in late 2013, and it really took off. I remember going to get my hair cut, and my hairdresser said, I said to him, I'm doing it, we're doing it. And he said, thank goodness, we've been talking about it for years. So for us, it was about stripping things back. I had an opportunity to go overseas for a short while for a little contract. And we just thought, let's just start forming this thing. And so selling the house it felt like a measured risk, but it was about simplifying everything. So we could put some money in the bank and we could just focus on seeing what this year would bring, and then we would pivot back at the end of it.
And what did you do in that year of adventure?
Yeah, I had a few goals. I wanted to use my professional skills in the developing world, and I wanted to try a few new things, test myself. I wanted fantastic experiences with Steph and each of our two daughters. I wanted a big physical challenge that was going up to Everest Base Camp in the end. Mostly I wanted time to mull. I wanted time through that year to let things sink in, to have insights, and just to have that time to think. And so it was a brilliant year. Yeah, I worked for about 6 weeks at a big research institute as a consultant, and did some work, 3 weeks for a charity doing communications work. 3 days in Venice with our eldest daughter. A wonderful 2 weeks in the second half of that year when we went back to Bangladesh and Steph joined. And so we lived in Bangladesh and Dhaka for about 4 or 5 months. And at the end of that time, I had 2 weeks with our youngest daughter, who's a very good photographer, and we interviewed 50 individuals involved in a leprosy charity and being supported. So to work as a team with my youngest daughter was just precious, such a precious time. And and through the middle of that year, Steph and I we'd been apart for 3 months, and kept in touch, of course, but but we met up in San Diego. It was just like we were newlyweds again. It was fantastic, and we took a
Mustang convertible.
Yeah, car up the coast for 2 weeks. It was such a precious time too. So we worked. Yeah, so that was the year. It was a year of where you could see some of the year, but you didn't know what was going to come, and that actually was interesting, fun.
Great.
So you were in Bangladesh and you went twice, I seem to remember. And, that's quite a different place to live compared to Auckland, New Zealand, or I guess where many of the people on this call tonight live. So in that time, in that country, what were the challenges for you?
Yeah, well, it was daunting. A lot of people say, oh, did you enjoy it? And I'd say, on reflection, it was an assault on all the senses. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad. Well, I didn't enjoy it so much then. There were snatches and moments. It was interesting. I'm glad I did it, and it was empowering, I guess, as well. Being confronted by poverty every day is hard. When you drive places and there's beggars knocking on your window and they don't go away, and if you, as you would normally do, smile or engage at all, it just made it more persistent. So there was things like that, or being hassled all the time because you were different, made Eloise and I want to stay inside often and not go out at all. You couldn't walk 100 meters without being accosted by a rickshaw driver. They couldn't understand that we like to walk places. Yeah. So, in our apartment, it was lovely. It was fine. But it was bigger than what we're living in now, which was interesting. And we didn't use half of it, which was also interesting. I think it's fascinating just seeing different places and the differences and just embracing them and enjoying them.
I think, as I said, being apart for 3 months, regularly checking in with each other, that was a different experience for us after too many years of marriage. I think I would tell friends I'm learning to be comfortable about being uncomfortable. It's a bit of a cliche, but it was actually, it was a challenge at first, but then it was very freeing too. Well, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this point. I'm going to make a trip and we're going to go there and we'll see what develops, and things fell into place, which is...
So what is the attraction of being uncomfortable, Phil?
I guess, week to week when you're working, you know where you're going to be on a Monday and a Friday, and you plan your evenings and your weekends, and you plan a holiday maybe through a year, and you have things to look forward to. So it was quite nice to take time and have a blank canvas that you could put some things onto and other things would come onto, and not to know what was going to come. But you'd made the settings of, I'm open to these things, and let's see what we can develop. So there's a sense of creativity and satisfaction about creating some things, but also being surprised. And through that, so.
And you were living just in an apartment. So in terms of the benefits of moving your home and living somewhere differently like that, what were the benefits to you individually and as a couple? And then lastly on that one, I believe that, people were following your story on Facebook and being quite inspired by what you two were up to. So tell us the benefits.
Well, you get off the treadmill, you've got flexibility, you're simplifying because you've got to travel light or lighter, it's a chance to reconsider. And right from the start, when Phil decided he wanted a gap year, it's about his sabbatical gap year, it's interesting all the possibilities that come out when you stop one thing. I was surprised. I mean, I wasn't surprised that he got a job, but I was surprised at how much came out of the woodwork. For me, we couldn't do we couldn't work. My daughter and I, we couldn't work, but we did volunteer work, which was very confronting, going to a children's cancer hospital and seeing what it was like in a developing country like that was pretty, there's that word, confronting again. And out of it, I decided, well, opportunities are, I can learn something new. So I did an online course, and I also started researching fair trade options, because when you're seeing what you're seeing there, you want to turn it into something positive. You can't just walk away untouched. You want to make a difference and do something about it. So I out of that came a little social enterprise business when I came home called She Made This. Because really in developing countries, it's about empowering the women out of poverty is how you can make the biggest difference.
So is She Made This, is that still going?
Yeah, it's just tickering away. I didn't really promote during lockdown because I didn't feel, it felt, didn't feel right to be promoting. Basically it's giftware, it's gifts, it's storage, it's but it's about celebrating creativity of the women. It's it's a hand up, not a handout. And I just think
so for me, that sense of freedom, reinventing myself a little, being open. Near the end of that year, I worked out that I wanted to be in New Zealand working, but I wanted the opportunity to go and do stints of communication or disaster comms work. So I started doing some training, and the following year I was able to go back and have 2-3 month stints in Nepal as a volunteer doing comms work for the Red Cross and someone else. So
that was after the earthquake in
right, yeah. So it's given, and I'm now on a roster, so I see opportunities that, and I've found a great job I enjoy, that they will let me head off if there's an opportunity to go off for some paid comms work for little stints. So it was a chance to reinvent myself, to construct something that works, that has challenge but satisfaction as well. Yeah, I do remember we were about 2.5 years ago. We caught up with some friends we hadn't seen for 20 years in Wellington, and the guy was quite traditional and conservative. And he said to me, he said, "Look, you know, we've changed our lives a lot in the last year or two. We've sold our house and bought an apartment in Wellington. Now they're north of Auckland doing something new and different." And he said, "I remember seeing the things you and Steph were sharing a little bit on Facebook, and he looked at me and he said, I found it really inspiring." And he wasn't someone who generally expresses his inner feelings, you know, in fact, maybe at a rugby match. But so it thought, wow, that's interesting. Other friends joked, you know, the secret life of Walter Mitty, kind of, I'm living my life vicariously through you. You're off Everest Base Camp, you're doing these things. So yeah, we did get the sense that people were very interested in just what was it like to cut the ties, shoot off, and try something else.
So you're going to be 60, both of you, before a year turns. So what is home? Having done all that adventuring and living in different places and challenging yourselves, what's home all about, do you think, in Act 3?
In terms of your book, you talked about purpose. I think as far as purpose goes, my home is my haven, but a place to be shared, and hospitality would, you know, I would like to think would play a big part in that. Harmony, you know, harmony with nature, the sea, particularly. That's what I missed the most when I lived in the UK, was not seeing the sea. You know, as far as what inspires me in a home, it's simplicity, it's light, it's design, it's simple design, contemporary. In my little idealistic mind, I could see a plot of land where you could see the sea, and you had friends also with their little hub, and you'd have a pod. I can see my whole house. I'd have a little pod down one end for us, a communal area, then another pod down the other end for people to come and stay or do Airbnb. And then when the kids came with their kids, they have their own little area.
Oh, lovely.
And there's a big patch, you know. There's
So it's interesting you mentioned community. It's interesting you mentioned community there, because you might have thought, listening to what you were saying earlier, that you were kind of getting away from people in your trip.
No, I think, yeah, we've both talked about home as a base. It's a place to be, but it's a place to launch from, but it is a place for family and for friends, and you want to be open. And, you know, in the last few years, we've moved onto the city fringe, and we love it. We're in a kind of grungy but interesting environment here, and it's gorgeous, and we just love being able to walk out and all sorts of shops and cafes. And
what about all your stuff? I mean, you moved from a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom department.
Yeah,
so
and we
you do a lot of chucking out.
The last stages of leaving a locker. The stuff is being online traded as we speak. So we're almost there. It's a bit sad. We don't have bookshelves everywhere because we've made the transition online with things. But it was really interesting to come into a smaller space and buy furniture that worked for a smaller space and let go of things. And it was a bit painful at times, you know, leaving some pieces of furniture, but you keep art, I guess, and other things.
And we also put more thought into it, because when you're in a smaller space, every piece of furniture almost had to earn its spot and multitask.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's very true.
Yeah, I think we change as individuals. We're not the same people we were 20, 30, 40. So why should that change? You know, we should be retain the best of ourselves, but move on and reinvent ourselves a bit as we want to, or would like to be open to. So hope and change too. It's just a thing, but it's a special thing, of course.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Great.
Well, thank you.
Facets, you know, and along the way, I mean, I still remember coming back from London and being on the land and driving to my letterbox and hanging stuff out on the washing line, looking out over this valley and thinking, if the UK lot could see me now, they'd think this is rather. So
each of our homes has been very special.
Yeah.
And we, you know, lovely things about them. That first home, different things. But so this is it now, and maybe it could change again. That's fine.
Great.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's
So,
really inspiring. Lots of interesting ideas that spin out of that and inspiration. So we're going to divide everybody up into little
chance for a small chat.
Chat groups.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see whether I can
so
organise
this is
that
a
while
chance
Judy's
for
talking.
you to just really answer the question: what do you think your home is for in Act 3? What ideas have you got about how you want to live as Act 3 progresses? So what's it for? What have you taken out of hearing Phil and Steph, or perhaps what we were saying earlier? So you'll just be bounced into a room with a few other people.
There'll be about 5 or 6 people in each room, and it's a random selection, so no one's choosing. The machine is choosing. And have a chat.
You'll get a warning that we're coming back. So
yeah, so a minute before we come back, you'll get a little sign on your screen.
Enjoy.
Okay? See you in a minute. I think people are coming back to us now.
They are coming back in. Yes.
You can see.
Can you
people
wave at
gathering.
us?
Can you hear us? Waving?
Can you hear? Yes.
Yes, it's working.
There you are. Hurrah!
It's amazing. Even someone of my age can work this. It's easy.
No, that's an ageist comment.
It is an ageist comment. We don't say that kind of thing.
No, we don't.
We don't talk about decaying in old age.
So how was that? If you would like to put something in the chat box, or you're willing to be unmuted and to join us with your comments, your thoughts on home in Act 3, that would be fantastic.
What is or will be important in your home in Act 3? Tell us, what do you think? Who wants to say something?
I think it's important to be safe and secure in your own home.
Yes, hi. Yes.
Hello, sorry.
So we don't know your name, and
I'm Rosanna.
Hi,
Rosanna. Hi.
Oh, nice to see
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, you can see Galaxy, can't you?
Yeah,
that's it.
You're in another galaxy, yes, far, far away. Yeah, so safe and secure in your own home, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So tell me why that comes to mind.
Past experience, don't want to go into it now.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah.
And I'm such a different person now, so it's wonderful.
That's good, because you feel safe and secure.
Not only that, I've made my home mine in every way I wanted.
Yeah.
It works for me, so that's really important.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I think by implication, I can imagine if one's living in a home where it's not working for you because of whatever reasons, that must be a deep, deep pain. And
and you get sudden peace, and peace you don't even understand until it happens.
Yeah. No, really undermining. Yes.
It's that thing when you feel like you're treading on eggshells in your own home. It's very stressful and doesn't help you function out there where it's big and busy enough in the 21st century.
When we have rows and stuff, which we do, it is crucial to sort that stuff out. Yes, otherwise, you kind of don't really want to be in the same space for very long, do you?
Yeah.
No,
it takes two to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
It does. Yeah.
But it is a place, ideally, of where we can be restored and refreshed and at peace, as you say. I love that word particularly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rosanna.
Thank you
very
much.
How about other people? What occurred to you? I guess Phil and Steph were bounced into a group somewhere.
Pipe up if you want to.
Oh, Meg's raised her hand. Here we go. We'll unmute you, Meg.
Hi, Meg. We're unmuting
okay,
you.
Meg.
Far away.
Okay. I was just thinking, I said our home is for sharing, and that's what we've always felt. And I wondered about just letting people know that we have, at the moment, we've got somebody living with us who is a refugee from a charity called Room for Refugees.
Yeah.
And it's a really, it's been a wonderful thing. She's been with us for 18 months now, and it's been a real joy to having her sharing our home. And that might be something that other people might be interested in looking at. If you have spare room in your home, there are people out there who really need them, need a place.
Need a room.
So
yes.
is that through an organisation, Meg?
Yeah, the organisation is called Room for Refugees.
Okay.
Room for Refugees.
Yeah, and I could really highly recommend them. And they have, they're a charity, and the person who came to live with us has a key worker, and we met her with her key worker first. And to start with, you just commit to having them there with you for a month, and then it becomes 3 months, and then every 3 months they say, how's it going? You know, do you want to carry on? And
Oh, that's good. There's a review regularly.
Review, and you have a contract, so it's all done really very well and securely.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we've really enjoyed having her stay with us.
That's good. Well, just a thought. What would happen if it went wrong, Meg?
Oh, we would get in touch with her key worker. We have a key worker as well, so we just get in touch with the charity and say, actually, it's not working.
Yeah.
And there was something that was really difficult. I don't like fish. I really don't like the smell of fish, and she loves fish, and she, you know, so her cooking fish in our kitchen was an issue. So we've come to a compromise, and it's fine.
Oh, that's
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good on you. That's a fantastic thing. Giving someone a home who doesn't have a home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
well
great.
done. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Lovely. Anyone else who's got something to offer, or that came up in the groups you were in, or that's occurred to you from Phil? Is anyone going to sell up and go travelling like Phil and Steph did, I wonder?
And I need to say that I mentioned that Thomas went off to live in 250 miles away. He went with his wife Barbara. I thought I'd mentioned that, but I obviously didn't. So
yeah, he didn't go on his own.
Sorry about that, Barbara. Yes.
And
here you go.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Nicola.
Hi, Nicola.
Hi.
How are you?
Yes, and Thomas and Barbara were in our group, and so that was amazing because he'd said that he was a nomad who'd lived in a number of different countries. But for me, I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. There's nothing like lockdown to give you time to think. I think your home should be a haven and somewhere that's a kind of like a welcoming, lovely space. And partly because by nature, I'm actually quite an introvert, and also because, as you know, the kind of job that I do, it's a place where I need to be refreshed, and the news lately coming out of America hasn't really helped either. So it's a place that I need absolutely to feel refreshed, and the conversation has really made me think about that more. But I have to say, on the other side, with the idea of having like an adult gap year sounds really nice now. So I'm also thinking about that. That's come out of the home discussion about traveling for a year. So I'm now thinking about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, we heard it here first, everybody. It's been recorded.
And there are lots of websites where you can swap homes, you know, where you can let someone come and stay in your home. After the virus has gone away, I'm sure that'll all be
Yeah.
In fact, I remember when we were chatting to Phil and Steph earlier in the week, and they said that when they were out of their home, Steph and her daughter went and stayed in several Airbnbs in different parts of Auckland
to try them out. Trying out different areas, you know, do we want to be near here or near there? I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, well, it sort of comes under what we were saying earlier about the what ifs, you know, just being a bit of a playful, let's try that.
We've rented places before buying in a town to see what it was like. Dip
your toe in the water. And
we went to stay in an Airbnb before Airbnb was invented to do the same thing.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
We're gonna have to wrap it up in about 3 minutes. So the whole thing.
And we know that, you know, that it's not everybody's option to be able to live somewhere gorgeous by the sea or to do anything really crazy and wild. But I hope that what you're taking out of this is that even a bit of a stretch might be incredibly invigorating to you to maybe reorganize one of your rooms or move things around within the 4 walls that you're in, can switch things up.
One of the things I'm taking out of this tonight, and in summary, is home. I'm reminded that home is a place where you need to be able to feel fully yourself, and also to express yourself fully. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be lavish. In fact, you know, what I'm taking out of Phil and Steph is the kind of getting rid of stuff seemed to help them be more fully themselves. So that fits with old Mary Kondo's book, doesn't it, nicely?
And we also want to just underline before we say goodnight that this can create very interesting conversations between you and your partner if you are living with somebody else, or
Children,
those stakeholders
parents.
that we mentioned earlier about who's highly opinionated about where you live. We did meet a guy, and he and his wife up sticks, and they moved to be much closer to their children, and actually it was a disaster. They had no community of their own. The kids didn't need them half as much as they imagined, and it was a very difficult experience.
Yeah,
so,
they moved away from their community to a place where they didn't feel at home.
So speaking of community, what we're going to do next week is talk about friends and what friends mean to us as we move through our Act 3 years. So do be thinking about that, and we'd love to see you join us on the call again next week to think about friends, friendship, and how we are as a friend and what we need from our friends too, and how that looks. You know, it's a time of life where for many of us, perhaps we're losing friends, perhaps people are moving away, perhaps sadly they are having big health challenges or even dying. So it's another big area of our life. It's a big branch in our tree that can affect us as we get older.
So we want to say thank you for being with us today and tonight, this morning in New Zealand, tonight in the UK, and who knows what elsewhere. Thank you very much for being with us. You can find the films, as I said earlier, of all these Zoom meetings on our website, act3life.com. You'll be very welcome to share the links with other people, and the book is still available to buy. Actually, last week it sold out of Amazon. I didn't know that was possible. It sold out at Amazon briefly, but sadly, now it's not sold out. They got some more in, so that's, I suppose, a good thing. So if you want a book signed by us, we're happy to do that if you get in touch with us off our website. So thank you very much for joining us.
Loving the chat. It's still coming in from Pen. She decided to leave her job and move on to the next stage. Spent 18 months traveling, visiting 15 different countries. That's incredible. Working in different schools as well as having a holiday.
Wow.
It was uplifting, but I always love returning to my home, my little sanctuary. So we know that there's a very good chance you're all in your homes. I don't think you're out of your homes, and I expect we're all sick of our homes as well after weeks and weeks and weeks of lockdown. But thank you for inviting us into your home tonight to talk about home, and do come back next week. We will send you a link, as we always do, and be thinking about friendship and what it might mean for next week. So cheerio for now. Have a lovely, lovely week, and give
See you next Thursday.
To you all. Yeah.
Yes,
thank you. Thank you, Judy.
Bye.
Thank you, Adrian. Bye.
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 Bye. Lovely session. Thank you.